A lot of the videos on the channel lately have been relating to Star Trek instead of Star Wars, but this doesn't mean that Star Wars still isn't very much on my mind. And recently we've been playing a new campaign, me getting to be a player, and it's run by the Umbromancer channel, but it doesn't appear on Aloy's channel. It instead appears on Ivan Mike 1968. So if you're interested in that, we've got Craig Shipman from Third Floor Wars. We have our friend Jose. We have Aloy running the game. We have Ivan. We have myself, all playing a very fun campaign of Star Wars. Now, in the summer, I did an interview with Kevin Madison, also known as the Dungeon Muser at the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel and various other things. And one of the topics that came up was Star Wars, and one of the Star Wars topics which came up was the Destiny pool. And since then, I've been thinking, about what he said and my answers and whatnot about the role of Destiny and Destiny points and whatnot in the game. Being able to just be a player, just sit back and let Aloy get into the system in his own way and really bring out that feel. I mean, this is one of those Star Wars experiences that I'm having where I can hear the music. That's kind of our metaphor for it. You're having fun when you can hear the music. So it's been a lot of inspiring fun for me to play, and it's been fun to try to bring my skills, such as they are as a player, into a point where I can practice them and enjoy them and see them change over time as we play. So, the Destiny pool has been a pretty constant feature of my Star Wars thinking since the summer, is what I'm trying to say. So, this isn't a video about how to use the Destiny pool. Now, the pages you can see arrayed behind me explain in great detail what the Destiny pool does, how it does it, how you get into play, all those things. So you'll find it in any of the core books. You'll find it in the quick starts and all that stuff. So if you do have questions about how the Destiny pool works from a functional system standpoint, please feel free to post your question in the comments below, and I'll be happy to talk about it with you there. But what I've been thinking about the Destiny pool is something that I'm sure I've mentioned in videos in the past, in passing, connected to other topics, but not in its own explicit video, and that's the idea of, much like we talked about with the Force and use of Force and the Force and narrative threads that we've talked about in other videos, is the same thing for Destiny. How when we look at some groups out there, and this is not to say, ooh, look, those groups over there are doing it wrong. This is an observation. You can see that a lot of groups will use the Destiny pool as purely functional, as purely system, much in the same way that you roll dice. You just pick them up and use them because that's the mechanism for obtaining the effect, like to learn if you were successful or not. And so in order to obtain the benefit of the Destiny pool, you pick up a point of Destiny, whatever you use, whether it's a token that came with the dice, or like I do, I use tokens, black and white tokens from Paduk, the Korean version of the game that's more commonly known as Go. But whatever it is that you use, you pick it up and you spend it, and you either state the benefit or you apply the benefit, and that's all there is to it. And this is something that I feel less than satisfied with when I do it myself. I get more enjoyment of the notion of the Destiny pool, the notion of Destiny in Fantasy Flight Star Wars role-playing, when I establish, even if only to myself in the moment, this flow of Destiny. What is it that this represents? As the game master, using the dark side points, this is something that I pretty consciously tried to do. And, when triumphs and despair would come up to turn the tide of battle, this is another thing that we like to do to connect to the idea of there are threads of destiny, and at least one aspect of the force, that penetrates all things and binds all things, is that there is this struggle between the light and the dark, that there are outcomes, that we're moving in directions, and that there are special nodes, there are special individuals, there are special places, there are special times when the outcome of destiny is not certain, and the force is evidenced in its influence over this feel of destiny. Well, how aware is your character of destiny? If we're playing a force sensitive character, we may have a completely different perception of this. Perhaps you're playing someone like I am right now, who has begun to open up their understanding of foresight. So I, as a player, have spent points to build skill with the force power foresee. My character has experienced training at the hands of a more experienced force sensitive to help open his perceptions to the ebb and flow of destiny, right? The possibility of seeing what is going to happen. Now, his senses are quite limited at this point, but it has begun. He's taken a step forward into a wider universe. His understanding has opened, and he has more senses now than he did before. It's a very different conversation than saying, I bought, a rank in foresee. And it's this notion that I'm talking about with this Destiny Points video. The idea of feeling in some way connected to these tides of destiny. Perhaps as a force sensitive through the force. But what if you're not playing a force sensitive? What if you're playing a smuggler? What if you're playing an ace pilot or something like that? We have all sorts of descriptive ability. And with every expenditure of a light side point as a PC, it doesn't mean that we need to come up with a new rationale or a new connection to destiny, that something different has happened. This is one encounter. This is one struggle. This is one nexus point in the flow of destiny in the galaxy. And when the encounter is over, it has been resolved. One side or the other has triumphed, or we end up in some sort of stalemate, which is also interesting, which is also a result. We don't need to establish with every flip of a light side point to a dark side point some new rationale or some new connection to character. We only need to establish it in some way to some level of importance in the flow of things around us. How we might feel that this was important, or why this is important to us, or does it feel like being in the zone, like everything is lining up, like the state of no mind that you can experience in martial arts or in other forms of athletics, that sense of the flow state. Is it something as simple as that? Is that how you perceive destiny, being in the right place at the right time? Is it a recognition of coincidence? Is it a hoped for moment, where you're hoping things will line up in a certain way? Oh, if only he would, juke to the right instead of juking to the left. And he does. Is it that kind of thing, that sense of luck? Right? Is it the opposite? Right? When the game master spends a dark force point and increases the difficulty, increases the challenge for the character, is that the moment where we feel that luck is slipping through our fingers, that we are sliding down into bad luck, bad timing, being at the wrong place at the worst time? I think this can enhance play. fumbling for these explanations or trying to be overly evocative of the pull of destiny can, of course, slow things down and get in the way. And depending on the group that we're playing with, we will have different tolerances for this kind of and this area of description in play. And so we will find groups that don't do it at all. They just reach out and they spend a light side point to, upgrade a die. And they're done. Because mechanically, you can do it, and there's nothing that can stop you from doing it. But if this notion of connecting the events and the system and the character together into a seamless flow that justifies what's going on in all directions, then this is one of the ways to get there. So, is this how you use Destiny? Have you decided not to use Destiny in this way? Let's talk about it in the comments.